Hey everyone, and welcome to Unveiling Beauty. This is like Monday number 5052 because I think every day just feels like a Monday. So I'm just going to call it a Monday even though it is
We say that every single time.
Wednesday. I remember the days when I used to love Mondays because as a hairdresser, it was my day off. But now
Oh, that's
they're
been
a
a long
little
time
different.
though. Yeah, it's been a long time since that was the case. I agree with you, Nick. And I will say this: these little episodes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, regardless of whether it feels Monday every time, it always feels like something I look forward to. Because
Perfect.
it gives us a chance to like connect with everybody out there, battle with technology, and try to make sure that we're working with things like everybody in the world is trying to broadcast at the same time. But it does give us a chance to talk about topics that are important and connect and see the faces of the people that we had to work with and we've been missing so much. So I'm glad to see your happy face tonight, whether it's a Monday or a Wednesday or whatever day it is.
Right, I couldn't agree more. And speaking of other happy faces, we have an action-packed show tonight. We're all about texture, which is a conversation that we use on the daily. And we know that, it is such a big mission for us as a team, as a company, to really make sure that we embrace texture as hairdressers, all hairdressers. So it's something that we're on a big mission to accomplish through our education platform. So, Ammon, talk about the great people that we have in store for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of the passion that's been ignited underneath me personally, but underneath our brand to really just win and earn our way into this texture space. And there's nobody better to do it than our first guest coming up today. Pekela Riley is on today, David Lopez is on today, and design team member Bianca Donahue is on today. Um, Pekela came on board, and Nick, I want to just talk a little bit before we just throw it right to video, right? Because you and I met Pekela, I think, literally walking through a trade show, and we saw her on stage and just kind of stopped in our tracks, like, wow, that girl's got that something, right?
Yep.
And I remember at the time we were in the process of building this pro team of industry experts, and she just right away clicked as somebody that we thought like that's who we need on this team to really bring this like texture credibility and lead us into this direction, right? Remember that?
I do remember it like yesterday.
And we do have a little video that we made when she first joined the team that some of the other pro team members echoing the same sentiments. So I want to throw to that video right now as we introduce Pekela Riley.
Perfect.
This year, we're very, very honoured to have a new member on our team.
I have never met a more talented, humble, and just passionate artist.
And her skill set in terms of texture is really something that's next level.
Her spirit and her aura is just exceptional.
She is, without a doubt, the piece that we have been missing.
Pekela just fed.
My specialty is managing and styling texture. This is something that we need, we want it, we value it, and it makes me really, really proud for the direction in which Ulta is going.
Hello, hello, Miss Pekela Riley. How are you tonight?
Pekela.
Hey family, how are you?
Good. So good to see your beautiful face.
Happy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Happy every day, right?
Right.
So we're so happy to see you and have you on the show tonight to talk about texture. But when we talk to you about coming to Ulta to be on the Bro team, we talked to you about texture being a really big moment for us and a big movement, and you got really excited about that. So tell us why, as a company, texture is so important, and then why is it really important to you as an artist?
Well, well, first and foremost, the thing that made me most excited about joining Ulta and in this texture moment was that we recognized that this was a texture moment, but that it was forever. It was the spark of something that was going to be and exist and really, really empower stylists forever. As so much of the population has textured hair and will be embracing their natural texture.
So,
That's awesome.
Pekela, I know that you're particularly fond of like, the mission, and then I know I can speak personally because you've kind of been the spark that's been lit underneath me in terms of being able to make sure that Ulta Beauty becomes the place that people really do recognize that no matter what hair type, skin color, that we are the service provider. We have service providers that can take care of you. But I do want to ask you, because I know there's so many myths, I guess we could call them, right? Myths about or misconceptions about textured hair that are out there. For people who aren't currently working with textured hair, what would be like one of probably the many myths that you would say that we could like squash and bulldoze out of the way today?
Well, if we could do this every day, that'd be my favorite trivia. But so definitely, one of the top myths for textured hair is that textured hair is stronger, that it's much stronger, and in fact, it's not. Textured hair has less cuticles, and that's what makes it more susceptible to heat damage. It's more fragile. It's easy to lift. And it's because it has such so many fewer cuticles that it really is predisposition to damage much more easily than straight hair. So textured hair, although it has lots of volume and lots of girth, it is not naturally stronger.
That's interesting. I bet a lot of people didn't even realize that. I'll tell you, for those of you watching, if you have questions for Pekela, make sure you put it in the comments. And if you haven't already, share this on your page so that all of your friends and family can see all these great tips from Pekela.
Yes, we want those texture questions.
Bring them. So Pekela, I know that we could, and I just want to make sure that all the viewers know that like Texture Talk, this is not going to be like, this is far from a one and done situation. This will be like a regular occurrence that we revisit texture from the many different aspects, because as we all are learning, and as Pekela well knows, there's no way that we could fit it into a 1 hour segment, and it's continually going to be a segment that we pulse in from a variety of different angles. In fact, one of the teases is next week we're going to be doing an episode about protective styling, which is specific, tends to be specific to people with textured hair, right, Pekela?
Yes.
But today,
absolutely.
I know
wearing
that
your protective style now.
Exactly, and you look fabulous in that protective style. What I would say though is we do have a video that you prepared that I wanted to make sure that we shared with a technique specific to with textured hair of many that will to come. But let's throw to that video right now, and then we can come back and discuss the video and the technique involved in that video.
Hey guys, let's get into this wet and chill on this combination curly texture. This head of hair has some coarser sections, so I'm going to be using 2 products. And those 2 products would be Mazzani's Foam Wrap and Mazzani's Curl Defining Pudding. Of course, her hair has been shampooed, conditioned, and sectioned for control. And the miracle ingredient, water. So definitely going to keep this hair hydrated with lots of water, and I'm going to slow this up a bit. So basically I'm emulsifying the product through her hair, separating and stretching, stretching, separating, stretching, and separating. So as you can see, I'm saving lots of time with a simple motion of stretching and separating without the use of finger coils. This is going to give her lots of definition without the time-consuming task of finger curling every strand. I love this method because it saves a lot of time and it allows me to emulsify the product, closing those cuticles down the strand of the hair. You can help activate by gently lifting without disrupting the curls. Continue until you're finished. Also love this method because it's definitely something that's easy to show your clients, and they love that they get in and out the chair. Don't forget to hook up those edges. You can always assist with curl retraction by gently lifting without disruption of your pattern. Diffuse and dry. Start by massaging at the roots to begin the volumizing process. I know the bigger the better, so if you need more volume, use your pick and stop where the pick stops. Fluff with your fingers to balance out your shape, and voila!
Oh my gosh, that video just makes me want to find someone with textured hair and do their hair. I mean, look how luscious and gorgeous her hair looks. Can
I
you?
know, don't we
I,
miss touchier times?
oh my God,
I love that.
I
Touch
like
your
that touchier
times.
times.
I feel like
Yeah.
HR might be not okay with that, but I'm gonna use it
Oh
anyway.
my God. I'll tell you though, that just gets me excited to jump back in and do some hair for sure. You
Yeah.
know, before I jump to another question I had, there's some questions that are coming on the feed that I wanted to read. One was like, this is a really good one, Angie. You know, it's can you give me 3 hot tips on how you can help me teach texture in Ulta Academy classes? So these are our educators that
Oh.
are out there in the field, you know, teaching texture classes. What are 3 good tips that you can give her that are really solid nuggets?
The first would be control. Uh, Educating on control, the importance of sectioning and really managing the hair. So control would be the first thing. The second would be moisture. I know oftentimes we think of oil and texture, but the primary need for textured hair is definitely moisture. And then the third thing would be to focus on the fundamentals of shaping, which certainly we're going to dive into a lot with Ulta this year.
I love it. Great answers. And then you know what? I got to just call it out. So, Angie, you popped up on my feed with that question, and it just reminded me that I never returned your phone call. So I apologize, and I owe
Oh,
you a phone call. So,
busted.
so I will get back to you. I promise. It's been a little nutty, but I promise you I'll get back to you. So thank you for your patience there. Great call out. And then there was other questions on here around like products. Will Ulta be getting more products for textured hair? We're always looking at adding more products for textured hair. So there's a lot behind the scenes happening. So I promise you, stay tuned. That's on our radar. I
Yes, we
guess
have lots of goodies and we definitely have more on the horizon.
100%. So, Pekela, we always talk about like texture is a culture. Like it truly is a culture. And what do we mean by that? Like, talk to people about like how is texture such a culture and why?
Well, texture is a culture because it's about self acceptance. It certainly at sometimes it used to have racial undertones, and and one moment in history it was revolutionary, and now it's all about just self acceptance. And like I shared earlier, with so much of the population actually naturally having textured hair, we're talking about 70% of the population having textured hair
Yeah.
and embracing that. So the culture has moved around because anybody, no matter your skin color or your complexion, you have texture. The likelihood is that you have texture. So it's really about that self acceptance and how we want to make the stylist feel and how we want to make our guests feel that there's a space for them and that we celebrate their beauty, whether they're white, black, brown. And so I think that you can't have true inclusion without texture because that's something natural to each of these individuals. And that's why it's so important that we empower our stylists as we are to really empower our guests that come into the store because it's all about that self-acceptance, and that's the culture in which we've seen in beauty, and it's certainly a culture in which we embrace and celebrate and will continue to push forward at Ulta Beauty.
I have to tell you a story, and I'm glad you said that about really self-acceptance because I'm going to be honest with you, until a few years ago, I really never understood that was a thing. And a couple of years ago, we were in a meeting and we were talking about diversity, inclusion, and just, you know, who we are as a brand. And somebody got up and spoke and said, listen, I was so excited to join Ulta Beauty, and this is somebody that doesn't do hair in the corporate office, saying I was so excited to work for a company that allowed me to not flat iron my hair and feel okay about it. Like I thought I had to get a press on my hair and wear it really straight for many years working in different companies, and to know that I can come to work and embrace my natural curl, it was like so empowering for me to know that that was okay. And I remember looking at her and go, and I said to her, why wouldn't it be okay for you to wear curl? Like that was so mind blowing to me. I'm like, why? You're beautiful and your hair is
Exactly.
amazing. Why wouldn't that be okay anywhere in the world? So it really
Yeah,
is something
and
I didn't understand.
it's something as simple as wearing the texture in which you were born with.
Hmm.
The hair in which you came into this world is still being debated upon in government, in different states to protect the rights of that. So just we think that it's just about beauty and aesthetic and vanity, but it's really so much deeper. It really is a culture. It really is uplifting society and really moving it forward. And we are the carriers and the doers of that as beauty professionals to really celebrate the way that who we are as individuals, every one of us.
I mean, if there's any doubt as to why we have Pekela Riley on the team helping us lead the charge for this texture movement, it was just squashed right there because I love that your passion
And
is so
and
strong, Pekela.
I'm so very proud of Ulta because it didn't take the Crown Act for Ulta to really make it a safe space to be who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and Nick,
I
I
agree.
I also I had a similar experience, and I'll share that with you, and then I have a question for you, Pekela, that's coming from my feed. But I had a similar experience where I talked. Well, it was one of my first times that I actually got up on stage and spoke in front of a lot of our district managers at Ulta Beauty, and we had a district manager at the time who was so excited about this being a big focus of ours, about texture and natural texture being a focus, that she confessed that for the many years that she had worked for us, and I don't think it was coming from us as a company, but it was just from society in general, that she had always, always, always relaxed her hair. And it wasn't until she started to realize, like in that moment when I talked about that, she's like, this is this freeing moment where I'm going to let my natural curl grow out. And it's just like you said, it's an expression of just embracing who you are naturally. And that's why it lends to that culture. Really, it's just about, I don't have to straighten my hair or change the way that my hair is, because the way that my hair is beautiful, and that is so deep rooted, and that is why we're celebrating in the way that we are. Um,
Yeah, because it's
the
so deep. It's so
Yeah.
deep.
So the question that I have for you that's coming from my feed, and I think it's a really, really good one because it goes really strongly about, like, so let's talk about that woman who's been maybe for years relaxing her hair, and now she wants to embrace and celebrate her curl. So what does it look like? What are your tips for transitioning, right? Like, as she's growing it out, is it best to just chop it off, and then, like, maybe I think many of these women out there, Pekela, they may not even know how to identify, like, what curl type they have. So they don't know how to manage or use which curl. So maybe that's too many questions at once, but just talk about that transitioning phase and how to identify and control what you're working with as you're doing that transition process.
Yeah, just taking it back to self acceptance, there are so many questions in transitioning because oftentimes, many of us had relaxers from very early on because we were told, our natural hair wasn't beautiful. And so now you're coming into this space of, exploring what your natural texture is. In many cases, on the tighter texture, you will oftentimes have to trim that away because there will be a line of demarcation where the hair is going to want to break. The relaxed hair is so much finer. The natural hair has such much more tensile strength, and so it's going to want to break there. So if you're on the latter 3 to 4 type, you're going to want to trim that away gradually. You can do that as a big chop, the term big chop, or however you can grow your hair out and wear protective styles and cut it away gradually. And so, it's a journey. Sometimes that point of demarcation creates such discomfort, and the hair can become unmanageable in that state. And so, oftentimes, women will tend to cut that hair off once it's got to a length in which they're comfortable with.
Amazing. Nick, do you have any more questions, like, funneling in?
Nope, I think we're pretty much caught up on my side.
We're good. I just want to remind everybody that we will please continue. If you watch these later, we'll continue to keep watching these and answer these questions as we go back. So if you're not catching up with us live, then make sure that you go through and kind of watch through, and we can make sure that if you write in a question, then we can answer it. Nick, I could see you
Yeah,
wanted to
no, all I was going to say is
chime
there's
in.
a lot of questions coming in around products, right? And we're fully aware that we need more products for textured hair, but I want to know, what products do you guys want? So please put in the comments there what products you would love to have on the back bar to use on your clients, because I think that's going to be critical as we brainstorm on new products to bring in.
Oh, I definitely want that
Yeah,
list.
yeah. Well, Pekela, I wanted to make sure I want to show a quick little video that kind of highlights the journey, because I believe that right now Nick and I are very passionate about speaking about things, especially when we talk about with press, or when they talk, they approach us about, like, so what's going on with Ulta with texture. We specifically like to talk about the journey that we're on, right? Because it means we're not like laying our flag in the sand and saying we've arrived at dominating texture. We are on a texture journey right now, and it began somewhere. And so there's a little video that I'd like to show now that kind of that showcases a little bit of the start of that journey. So let's throw that video right now.
Okay.
Okay. I'm so lucky to be in a room of pioneers that are helping us redefine the entire industry on what texture is and how to approach it.
Ulta Beauty has recognized the need and stepped up to service all texture types within Ulta stores and salons.
It has been incredible feedback the last couple of days. It's one of those things where it's been such a long time coming, and the attendees here are so ready for this monumental shift.
Texture is just a fabric of beauty.
It's really gonna help us as Ulta Beauty be the leaders and the owners of like inclusion and just welcoming anybody that walks in the door.
Awesome. So fun. I mean, as you can see, this is just the beginning of a long journey, because in order to do it right, it's really going to take a minute. Don't you agree?
I totally, yes, it is a journey.
It is a journey, ever evolving, and every single day we learn. So we hope you guys learned a thing or two from Pekela today. Pekela, always a pleasure having you on. Thanks for spending your time with us tonight.
Thank you too. You're the best.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Good night.
Night, hon.
See you later. All right, Nick. Well, so it's always a pleasure. A wealth of knowledge. She's always just bringing more and more expertise and more knowledge. And I loved that video because it does, fortunately, Pekela's not the sole holder of that torch as we go through. We have another guest coming up right now that was also in that video. David Lopez also has quite a bit of experience when it comes to textured hair. And it's great because, just like we always talk about with our pro team members, different perspectives, different expertise levels, different education backgrounds all meld together to make it so that it's well-rounded and it's not just singularly from one perspective. So let's bring David on the show right now, and let's hear what David has to say about texture. Hey, David.
Hi guys, how are you?
We're good. How are you?
I'm great. I feel like every time when I first started doing lives, I used to get really dressed up and like make sure. Now I'm just like, you know what? I'm just here in my home, just having a little cup of coffee, just really comfortable. I just feel like I'm at home now,
That's awesome. Well, you are at home with us.
literally.
So, Ammon, first question, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, so I wanted to know about David. You talked to me once, and I hope it's okay that I ask you this. I'm just going to put you on the spot on live. Just talk about your journey, right? So your journey growing up, your journey with textured hair as a kid. I remember you spoke at our design team auditions very, very candidly and very openly, and I wanted you to be able to express like your journey and why understanding textured hair has meant something to you specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean is made up of so many different cultures. We are inherently mixed with European influences and African influences. So, growing up, you hear the term a lot, pelo malo, which means bad hair. And I heard that term applied to my hair when I was like 4 years old. Like, oh, pobrecito tiene pelo malo. Like, oh, poor thing, he has
Ooh,
bad hair. So I developed this identity that because my hair has texture, that it's bad. And the only way that it's good is if it's straight. So I had my own journey, and my hair is very curly. My hair is like a 3B, 3C. Um, And it wasn't until I got a relaxer in middle school. I looked like a Backstreet Boy for a good 2 years. And and then from there, I read a book called Curly Girl that was written by Lorraine Massey.
Yeah.
And this book changed my life. It introduced what is now called the CG method, the Curly Girl method, that was really just leave your hair alone, give it some moisture, be a little more gentle with it, and you're going to really see it bloom. And I did, and that was such an incredible journey for me. And my mom has really textured hair, my sister, everyone in my family is really textured hair. My dad is technically half black, even though we're all on the island, we're all Puerto Rican, but there are people who are black and who are people who are kind of native and people who are kind of white. So I grew up seeing all those different hair textures, and it wasn't unusual to feel that texture in my hand. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Sure, sure.
Um, so when I got to, and then I moved to New York City when I was 18, and I see even more texture, and I see, full afros, and I see big heads of curls, and I'm like, oh,
Right.
this is it, this is it.
So tell me, when was the moment where you discover that, you know what, I need to really understand the art of texture, not only in your own hair,
Right.
but now transitioning into a hairstylist and an educator, and the type of education needed to really master your craft of textured hair?
I think for me it was a personal journey first. you I say this a lot about when it comes to educating textured hair. Having textured hair in itself is a lived experience that you can't understand if you don't have that hair type. So one, as an educator and as being someone that's behind the chair, I teach a lot about how you're speaking to your client. And Pekela's always talks about this too, is how you touch a textured client's hair. I mean, the level of anxiety that I used to get going into anywhere, my mom or my sister, that they're gonna get charged more because their hair has texture. They are going to get like size like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, or your hair's so kinky. Oh, what your hair does this, or your hair does that. The first step is to really kind of embrace and understand the language that you're using, how to dismantle that kind of like structure that you've created about what textured hair is, and embrace it and understand that your client has lived with that hair their whole lives. And a lot of times your client's going to know probably a little more about their texture than you do. And then from there, you can go and you can educate yourself and from other people that have textured hair, and you can practice and practice and you practice. But it's really starts with like the personal experience before you really,
Right.
for me, before you start getting into the hands on, because it is such a personal experience.
That's awesome. Now, Ammon, I know you wanted to talk to David about some of his favorite products. What was that you wanted to ask?
I think the thing that I have always personally struggled with is, in school there's a lot of different products that are like marketed to you, but they're
Hmm.
like I don't have curly hair, right? And so I don't have the experience of putting on my curly hair and understanding like the difference between all of them. But like if you were to kind of like blanket statement like general rule of thumb product selection for different hair types, like how would that work for you? Because I know there's gels, there's
Right.
creams, there's mousses, there's like how would you kind of help categorize them and where people should slightly kind of maybe lean more towards versus like with their hair types?
That's a challenging question because anyone that has textured hair, it's a curly girl or a textured person, they understand they are a product junkie. Like you open the cabinet, they have gel, they have cream, they have mousse, they have everything under the sun. For me, when I teach the CG method, the curly girl method, I always go for either a cream or an alcohol-free gel. Those are the things that I kind of gravitate towards. Ulta has some really fantastic brands that I really gravitate to. Curlsmith, Pattern, Shea Moisture is a great brand that has so many
Yeah.
SKUs between creams and gels and foams. I really do love a foam, especially for finer curl types that want definition, but they don't want to weigh it down. So the other thing to think about too is think about your curl type. Once you identify your curl type, you can kind of understand, okay, if I'm a little bit finer, I should probably stay away from creams, maybe go to more foams or gels or mousses. Or if I have really frizzy hair, do I need something that has a little bit more hold and a little bit more um, an ingredient list that's going to provide some moisture and keep those frizzies down. So I do range in there. The one thing that I will say, and I am a staunch believer in this, is that be very mindful of the kind of detergents that are in your hair cleanser. I think that um, I'm not saying everyone has to be sulfate free or anyone has to be on a co-wash, which co-washing means that you only use basically conditioner to wash your hair, which some hair types benefit from. But I do think being mindful of the detergent that you're using, because, for example, a brand like Shea Moisture uses saponified sugar beets, saponified coconut, which are great detergents that still lather, still clean the scalp, still clean the hair, but are not overly stripping the hair or making that cuticle swell more than it needs to.
Smart.
That makes sense. You know, there's something that I always was told, and I want you to kind of keep me honest here with the co-washes, that it's not your solution for every single time you wash,
Right.
so to speak, right? You
Right.
still need to eventually use a cleanser to cleanse out all of that product and build up on the hair. Am I correct on that?
Right. So there are a couple schools of thought. I will tell you, I've been on both extremes. So I will give you an analogy. A lot of times with co-washes or creamy cleansers, you have to think of it this way. Your shampoo that you're used to using does all the work for you. You can put it in and stand in the shower and rinse. It'll rinse out for you because of the way it's molecularly structured to rinse with water. A co-wash is not designed to work that way. So you have to physically agitate it away from the scalp. Meaning if you were to put Windex on a window, you can't just let it sit there and it work. You have to physically wipe the window clean. That's how co-washes work. So if you're not actually someone that physically gets in there, physically gets it off the scalp to rinse that off of your scalp, you are going to run into people who have buildup on the scalp, get folliculitis. So there are two schools of thought. But for me personally, even when I was co-washing all the time, every now and then, I would say probably every 2 weeks or once a month, I would go for a cleanser that did have a detergent in it that was still a gentle enough version that would still clarify everything I need to. I love scalp scrubs. They're a huge, huge important thing that I integrate into a lot of my texture clients. There are some really great clarifying washes out there that are not really harsh, that are still going to open up the cuticle, get rid of excess product and oil, but not, again, overly swell that cuticle and make the hair even more dry.
Okay. I have a question here around perms. What's your thoughts? Okay, textured hair, is perms a thing that we're going to see more of? Do you think that's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be embedded in our education? Talk to me about perms.
Perms are huge right now. There are a lot of celebrity stylists that work in salons that have been quietly doing perms again. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the thing with perms is that people are going to them for texture in a way that it makes it feel more uniform. A lot of men are getting perms. More men than ever are getting perms. It's ironic because I don't wear my hair curly in its natural state that often, but a lot of men are getting perms for texture. I was in Korea in January, and all the guys there have perms, like just for big soft waves. They all have perms. So it's
Yeah.
something I think we're going to start seeing, because I think people like the idea of it feeling like, oh, I just let it air dry and it has texture and volume and it looks like,
It's cool.
I did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
David, I love when you wear your hair curly. I think you should wear it curly on the next episode. I'm going to
I
encourage
think
you.
it's
I'm going to
super
challenge
fun.
you. I love it.
I debated today. I always say it's so funny. We were talking about texture and culture, and Pekela brought up such a good point about, that it is a culture and that it does expand beyond any sort of racial boundaries. And one of the things I always think about, there are no straight lines in nature. Everyone has texture. There's a reason why the flat iron is the #1 selling hair tool in the world, because everyone in some way has some sort of texture. Another thing, frizz is a curl waiting to happen or a wave waiting to happen. Somewhere in there, whether it's a big soft bend or there's like a tight ringlet, it's in there somewhere waiting to come out. And I just want to see people learn to embrace it and love it, and not always kind of reach for that round brush and blow dryer all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm going to challenge you to embrace it next time you wear hair curly. Right.
Challenge accepted.
David, thank you so much.
Thank you
For your passion, well-rounded knowledge. We have you on so many of these episodes because you're just like a beauty enthusiast from all types, from skin to makeup to hair, textured hair, blowout, everything. Just always a pleasure to have you on the team. Thank you so much. Nick, let's talk to you. I want to know about your favorite curl product, actually. I want to know about what you like to use on your curls.
Well, what's so funny? So, I'm growing my hair out, right? So this is like a new thing. I'm totally
Are
embracing
you
the
gonna
hair.
get like a perm and be like?
No, well, come on. Well, you guys, funny enough, my hair is very curly. The problem is, like, right now, if I let it go curly, I look like Richard Simmons, and it's not really the look I'm going for. So I need to, wait till it gets a little bit longer and embrace it and hopefully try and get a really cool curl going. But in the meantime, I do have a favorite product, so I'm going to show it to you in a fun video. So let's kick into that.
Richard. know we're going back to just me, Nick.
So
Nick, I love
fun.
it. I'm going to put a challenge out to all of you viewers out there. If any of you guys want to take a picture of Nick and put a face of like Richard Simmons over it and send it in, we'll have some kind of little contest going.
Really? Really? All right, game on. I'm gonna come up with something for you. All right, I see how you're playing. I see how you're playing.
So Nick, who's our next guest?
Well, our next guest is one of our very own design team members, which we love and adore. So let's bring on Bianca now.
Bianca.
Hello,
Hi.
hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Long time no see.
Yes, definitely.
Always changing up the hair game, looking fantastic.
Always. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Ammon, texture with Bianca. Let's talk.
Okay. So, Bianca, I want to specifically talk to you about um, being on the design team. So, like a lot of people understand, like the design team members. One of the things that you guys are homegrown, like our homegrown ambassadors, right? So that you work behind the chair, just like a lot of those stylists out there. So, how has becoming or being well versed in multiple textures of hair and styling different textures of hair, how has that impacted your career as a stylist behind the chair in terms of servicing guests? Like, do you see a difference, or do you see mostly textured hair clients, or do you see a wide range? Talk to me about what that experience has been like for you.
Actually, I'm starting to see a more wide range, mainly with, I guess you could say, the biracial families. A lot
Mm,
of parents who have kids who have different types of textures, they're starting to have some sort of trial with figuring out how to deal with their daughter's hair. Especially, I have a lot of preteen clients, like the 10 to 14 age. The age group is it can be very difficult when you're trying to figure out how to love yourself, and like how Miss Pekela said earlier, to accept yourself in your natural way. So that has been a huge key tip in versatility for me as far as bringing families together. Um, I've shed a lot of tears with my clients, like the mothers on, just having the win of letting their daughter feel like they love themselves again, or, they're proud to go to school and flaunt their big, juicy, fluffy
good for
curls
you.
on a
That's
daily
awesome.
basis. I also have a niece and two nephews who are biracial. So that's how I originally started with becoming more versatile. My sister-in-law and my brother were, okay, well, what do I do? Like my sister-in-law, she is a curly girl, but she's more on the bigger curl side. And so like when my niece got here, she had very tight, super dense hair. And my sister-in-law was like, what do I do? So that was like my first rundown with, okay, so now I have to like learn about everybody.
Yeah.
So once I kind of mastered her, it was like an eye opener that, okay, now I have to be able to service my preteen girls or guys who are trying to embrace their curls, but I also want to be able to cater to their parents too. I didn't like the fact that the moms and dads were going to somewhere else just because they didn't know if I could still cater to their type of hair.
Right.
So definitely being able to cater to them and then bringing the families together as a whole. That experience in the salon, especially for like a mom and a daughter, that's like a nice bonding moment. So being able to do both a nice 2-for-1 special, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Bianca, tell me about, one of the misconceptions of textured hair. Like, what is something that people, that's maybe a myth, or something that maybe stands in their way of really being able to tackle textured hair?
Um, so one huge thing that I get a lot is that textured hair it is very versatile. Of course, it's like one of the most versatile types of hair there is. But on the flip side, people think that it's like steel, where they can manipulate and do whatever they want to it, and it won't really, hurt you in order to do it. And I had to learn that the hard way personally. That textured hair is some of the most fragile types of fabric there is, and you really have to think outside of the box and also think as if you're caring for a baby sometimes, in a way, because the littlest thing can damage the curl type. And once it's damaged, it's very hard to revive or even try to come back. Can withstand so much, and a lot of people think that can't.
I love that. I learned a lot about that in the last couple of years, Bianca. Respecting the texture, using the right products. I think that when I was in hair school, I don't want to dismiss it, but I just don't think there was an adequate enough amount of training about it. And so it was kind of a quick one and done about textured hair. And people would say things like, textured hair is just hair, And so I felt like I needed to struggle more, to straighten it more, to pull it harder, to give it more heat, all those things that you're just saying right now that I was probably, doing worse for the hair than I should have been rather than, being more gentle and being more careful with it. I have a question for you that I think is it's super relevant, and I wonder how it really is really impacted. And so I want you to answer it honestly for me, because I have a theory, but I don't want to like plant it in your head. So you work in one of the Ulta Beauty salons, and
Yes.
you are an artist that excels in texture and doing texture services. Do you feel like you servicing textured guests or guests with textured hair has had an impact in the stylists that work around you? Yeah, tell me about that.
Definitely. Definitely. I've always prided myself in being a texture stylist. And I know we have about 10 stylists in our salon, give or take. It's about 10 of us. And I can definitely say that every single one of them have asked for my advice in some way, shape, or form. We always have little mini lessons on how to control the hair or how to slick down edges or even how to define the curl, how to properly diffuse. So learning about texture and how to properly care for it has consistently been something that is ongoing, and they're constantly asked, okay, what Bianca, what are we doing now? They're, most of my clients are okay with people kind of watching them, so sometimes we even have look and watch parties while we're working on live clients. So we're always evolving, and I'm constantly, even if I learn something new, because I consider myself a student first before I'm teaching someone else, I'm constantly pushing my education on to my fellow stylist friends.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear.
So speaking of education, I think we have a how-to video here that goes a little bit deeper into what you're saying. So why don't we play that?
Yeah.
My name's Laura Gunter, and I'm a member of the Ulta Beauty Design Team. When I first met Pekela Riley, I didn't know a lot about texture. I wanted to know more and I wanted to learn, but I hadn't really found the right person to teach me yet. I knew that when I met Pekela, I had to raise my hand and ask her to let me assist because I needed it. I didn't have that knowledge and I was so hungry for it. I knew it was going to be valuable to me, and she shared openly and honestly with me. She taught me what it truly means to respect the texture and earn your way to the roots by detangling the hair and making it a pleasant experience for a woman with textured hair to get their hair done, because it isn't always. And that's something that I, as a person with straight hair, couldn't understand on my own. So I'm grateful to have her as a mentor. It's been an extremely valuable lesson for me.
I love seeing all of our artists at work, don't you?
Nick, you know what I love about that really quickly is just Laura specifically in that video, she was very vulnerable and she was like, I don't know about textured hair, but you know what? I'm going to learn. And she has been like diving in deep. And I know that that spoke a lot about her learnings with Pekela, but she has grown immensely, has transformed her clientele to now having a lot of mixtures, in terms of texture like Bianca does. And so I just love that because the challenge that we can put out there for people to really transform and really stretch yourself to be able to service any guest and any hair type.
I'll tell you, I agree with you on that, but I think the moment we become vulnerable and allow ourselves to learn is when we finally get it. So I think that's what's so important to remember, that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say you don't know how to do something. Chances are somebody around you knows how to do it and can help you guide your way through that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So, Nick, do you have any other questions feeling on your feed for Bianca?
I have one more question that came up, and it says, any advice on a book or a video that you would recommend on how to become an expert in textured hair? I'm not even going to answer that one, but I'll let you answer that.
So, I would personally say I'm majority self-taught. So what really helped me was definitely lots of videos, YouTube, Pinterest. I know on a professional technical standpoint, you might not find a lot of professional feedback, but on the flip side, it kind of gives you an overview of everyday people on how to deal with their hair. And definitely learning about like the science part behind it, like porosities. That is a huge background topic that's a whole different subject that has to cater to textured hair and how to properly deal with it. So I would definitely say use your internet tools. That's how I've gotten a lot of my education, and definitely trial and error. I cannot tell you, there's so many curly women and men out there. The only way that they were really able to figure out what worked is by trying it out. And if it didn't, then you try something new. So don't be
I,
scared to get in there and try it out.
I'll tell you, I think the biggest point that I want to pull from what you just said is like trial and error. I think in order to be an expert in anything, you have to practice. You have to do it again and again and again. There's no book, there's no video, there's no hands on workshop that you're going to do once, walk away, and be an expert at it. So just think about that with anything that you're doing. And that's cosmetics, and it's skincare and hair care, and really anything in our life. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely agree with that.
I feel like right now that
Never
Bianca
strive for
just
perfection. Just always strive to just get a little bit better, because
I agree.
being
keep,
perfect is not. It's not
keep
what you want.
improving. Keep improving. Bianca, I think you've given us enough to think about for. I'm already like formulating episodes 3, 4, and 5 with texture, all the different topics that we can come up and continue to continue to address. Thank you for once again being on the show today. Nick and I love seeing your smiley face and your ever evolving hairstyles. And so we'll say goodbye to you right now. And
Yes, have a good
Nick and
one.
we're going to talk about what's coming up next.
Yes.
See you later,
You
hon.
too. Take care. This is such a fun topic. I'll tell you, this show went really fast for me. I could literally sit here all night and talk about texture because it, for me, is the craft I'm most uncomfortable with as an artist, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I just want to be that sponge and continually learn and hear and know all the little nuances because I really meant what I said, Am, and that you really have to practice in order to get really good and be an expert at anything. I think about that when I went back to when Nicholas French, which I know we're going to talk about him in a minute, but when he taught me how to start doing dress work and upstyling and stuff, and I said, Beth, I don't want to do upstyling. That's not me. I'm a colorist. I'm a
Right.
cutter. I'm not a stylist. And I remember him saying, if you really want to be an expert in hair, you have to do it all. And the only way to do it all and be an expert is to do it over and over again. And your biggest, what we call failures or opportunities, is what really crafts you into being a really great hairdresser. So this really went fast.
Yeah, it did for me too, and I knew it would because it is for me also. And I'm not secret about it. It's a huge passion of mine, and I've actually tried my best to set an example in terms of vulnerability on my social media page about at one point like I did think that I was the cat's meow with being able to do hair, and then I met certain people and realized that like, oh, I have a lot to learn about different approaches. And I'm like, you know what? Texture is one of those areas where I realized that although I was able to curl hair with an iron and manipulate texture to make it look pretty for a picture, I was nowhere near understanding all the different ways to take care of it and treat it and take care of a guest that wants to do multiple different styles. And so I've been vulnerable on my journey as I'm trying to master and making sure that my feed shows, okay, I might not be like, I might not be Miss Pekela Riley yet, but I'm going to get there one day, And I challenge everybody that's out there that's watching that if you feel intimidated by it, or if you're worried about diving into something you're uncomfortable with, just like Nick, you were with upstyling, that take those steps, trial and error, just like Bianca said, baby step into it, find a mentor, right? Like the gentleman I'm about to talk about for our upcoming episode. I know it's going to be a special one for us on Friday, Nick. A mentor of ours. We had the opportunity a few months back to visit his place in Palm Springs, and we did something that we've never done before, which was we did a photo shoot where we included the design team and the pro team together, and we got the design team to get some coaching from somebody who coached us, and it was like, I know you and I both got emotional, and I anticipate some emotional moments on that episode on Friday.
There will be for sure.
Because he's an icon in the industry and very close to you and I. And so we'll get a sneak peek at how that photo shoot went and how the mentorship that went with him talking to our design team members and what that meant to them. So look out for behind the scenes or a deep dive into our Skyfall collection with Mr. Nicholas French on Friday, everybody.
We're so excited about that. And if you're like Ammon and once thought that you were the cat's meow and you realize that you're not at the moment, don't be discouraged. I am never going to let you live that down that you said that. So thank you for giving me that nugget. That made my whole entire Wednesday. So from the cat's meow and myself, we're signing off for tonight, and we will see you Friday. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you on Friday evening.
Meow.
Bye-bye.